Today we're talking about Spiritism. Today is Monday, November 29th, 2021. And today is going to be, as we do every Monday, questions and answers about Spiritism. Let us start with a prayer. Dear Jesus, thank you for helping us open our eyes and our hearts and help us prepare for the Christmas season coming up, where even in the spirit realm it is celebrated. And let us be influenced by it, and let us think about what we can do for other people and bring them joy and happiness, and not to dwell upon what we want, but how we can help others. Amen. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And before I begin that, I would recommend for everyone to, if you'd like to learn about Spiritism, and if that was, remember, it was promised by the Consoler. Let me bring this up here so you can see. If you love me, keep my commands, and I will ask my Father, and he will give you another Consoler to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. And that's in New Testament, John chapter 14, verses 15 to 17. And then just after that is, but the Consoler, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things. And the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things, and will remind you of everything I have said to you. The New Testament, John chapter 14, verse 26. So this is why, and this happened in the 1850s, in which Allan Kardec brought to us, codified to us, what the spirits communicated to him when he asked a series of 1,019 questions. And here's the books, Allan Kardec, the Spirits book. Now, if you'd like to find this book, type in Allan Kardec, ALLAN space Kardec, KARDEC, space PDF, and you'll find his books on PDF. You can also go to my blog site, nwspiritism.com, and you will see a picture of Allan Kardec, and it will take you to where you can find his books. So, and then lastly, just to let you know, I would recommend, if you'd like a quick overview, a summary of what Spiritism is and the main tenets of Spiritism, is download my free PDF, Spiritism 101, the Third Revelation. And that it's just 99 pages. And if you don't want it on PDF, you can get it on Kindle, paperback, or Audible, if you have that. So, in Kindle and Audible, if you have like a monthly subscription, it costs you, again, nothing. Okay. So these are just resources for people who would like to learn more. I'm biased. I think learning about the spirit world is just the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. Kind of my passion, my hobby, ever since I discovered Allan Kardec's The Spirits book. I mean, when you think about how is a higher power organized? How is all this organized? How can we have predetermination in our life and it just, who does that? And finding out about that and how that works and how we are part of that environment and how we too will have immense power and responsibilities and why we're here on earth, to be being trained in life after life to handle power and responsibilities. Okay, let me start with the questions, if there's no questions here. Okay, I'll go to the first question, and then when you're ready, just put in your comments, and I will answer as well as I can. These are questions I've written down from people that they leave me in any of my videos on YouTube. And of course, you can always write to me directly. If you go to nwspiritism.com, go to the About Me, and there's a contact section, and you can ask questions there too. And of course, anybody who wants any help or arrange a a call, I'll be happy to do that too. Oh, right before I do this, here's a question. Where can I find more books in the vein of Evolution in Two Worlds in English? Are books best suited to share with our more materialistic, skeptic friends? Yeah, I mean, and Evolution in Two Worlds is pretty technical, right? It gets down to the nitty gritty. And so, what I would recommend is two things. One, if you want to talk about spirit communications and how that helps, is the Domains of Mediumship by Chico Xavier, Francisco C. Xavier. Sometimes I've seen it in two. I've seen it in the Domains of Mediumship and in the Realms of Mediumship. I don't know why they had two titles. It's the same book. I would look at that. I think the other one is to explain people is my book, The Spirit Realm, of how I explain logically how it's constructed. And that may help. It depends of what your friends want to see. So if they want to see a more scientific and how things can, how our science compares to the science of the spirit realm, what we know, what we don't know, I think those things might help you the best. If anyone else has comments, and if you can think of other books that would help, let me just go. The other one that might be a bit too heavy for people though. It's not here. It's not listed here. It's called Genesis by Allan Kardec. You might want to look at that. Get that in PDF first. It does have a lot of explanation, and I cover a lot what Genesis says in my book, The Spirit Realm, because Genesis foretells what I believe foretells string theory, multi-dimensions, all of these things. There's a lot in there, but you have to read it carefully, right? And I've read this, multiple times. So that's just my opinion. So if anybody has other opinions, please share them. You might find more interesting books. Now, kind of an interesting book is Planetary Transformation. Oh, Planetary Transition, sorry, by Divaldo Franco. And in fact, I just read the second of that book, and it talks about how spirits come to Earth to help us move along. And it's very interesting in that way. It kind of shows how our relationship with higher planets and so on and so forth. It's hard. You never know what's going to trigger the materialistic skeptic friends, because it's a tough one. What I found is I talk a lot about near-death experiences. And of course, materialistic skeptic friends will think that those are all illusions. But I go through a lot of my books about near-death experiences of how Spiritism answers the things that they saw and gave them reasons. But the more I'm talking, the more I think that probably won't be special for them. So I think maybe it's a tough one. I think my book, The Spirit Realm, gets into it, but you probably have to read that first. And then Genesis. And if you can think of anything else, anyone puts in more comments, let me know. It's a good question. I get questions like that a lot, especially I get questions such as, how do I tell my Christian friends that it's okay to talk to spirits, right? Because that's a big no-no. So I've covered that a lot too. So it is interesting, is it not? Okay, where's my questions here? Here we are. So I know I don't think I answered your question very well. Oh, wait, here's another one. What do you think has happened spiritually to someone who is schizophrenic? Well, okay, first, before I say anything, always go to your doctor and your therapist and get help. A lot of this could be caused by your just physical deficiencies and so forth. But what Spiritism tells us is that people who are schizophrenic are influenced, not all the time. I just want to make sure you understand that. And in fact, there's books talking about these influences and why they happen in Between Two Worlds. again, a book by Chico Xavier. You can look that up, right? Francisco C. Xavier. Click on the picture of Alan Kardec on my blog, nwspiritism.com, and then go to the FEB work and then website and look for between two worlds. I think is one. And it talks about Andre Luis going down and visiting psychiatric hospitals and so forth. So let me give you some more information. So what happens in a lot of cases is that a person who is obsessed by spirits, and this can be extremely cruel, but they're obsessed by spirits because they had done something horrible to those spirits in past lives. And now they want revenge for what they've done. And they don't have the patience to let the spirit world give them life after life and let them learn the lessons that they need to learn and let them to atone for their wrongs. And therefore they will try and hurt them themselves. And in fact, I forgot what book this in. There was a great, and it's in my blog too. And I forgot what book it's in. It's these two spirits are obsessing this young man who was the son of the man they hated. But they couldn't find his father, so now they're obsessing him, who is guiltless. And they say, you know, we went to a class down in the lower zone of how to obsess people, how to, you know, and what happens is they take your negative aspects of your personality and they amplify them. So if you're sarcastic, it means, you know, they just amplify that. If you are, if you are greedy, they'll amplify that. Oh, you want money. That's what they did to this guy's son. They made him a complete miser. And all he would was dream of gold. And then at night he'd leave his body and go to his office and count the gold and the bills that he had. That's what happens. And they'll enlist other spirits who are more like someone like ovaloids or kind of more in the lower evolution, the lower, more ignorant spirits, and they'll just put them there and they'll use them to help amplify these things because our thoughts go out all the time and our thoughts go through us and we are affected by thoughts, and then they'll just take our more negative thoughts and give them back to us. So that's what happens. In fact, I've told the story before where Chico Xavier was meeting a lot of people, and this husband and wife came up to him and said, our daughter is in horrible shape. She's schizophrenic. How can we help her? And Chico Xavier said, do good. Go do good for people. So, and this was all written down by someone who's been working with Chico. A year later, they show up again, and he's next to Chico. And he says, oh, thank you. Our daughter's better. She hasn't had these periods, and, you know. And then he asked him, because Chico, what happened? He goes, well, I told him to do good. And that couple went out to prisons and helped the inmates, read to them, helped them get what they needed, consoled them, all that. And so the mothers of these prisoners who saw their poor, and these are deceased, right? They're errant spirits, the mothers who saw their poor sons in prison, said, this couple is really nice to our sons. Let's go follow them home and see what's happening. They followed them home and saw that the spirits were trying to obsess and destroy their daughter. And they said, stop doing that, please. These parents are wonderful people. And they stopped. Now, and the other thing is, and what they do is there's even Spiritus hospitals for mentally ill patients. And they'll do the regular psychiatry and therapy and medicine and so on and so forth. But they'll also have mediums meetings so they can discover what spirits and why are they obsessing this person. And they don't do like an exorcism, like, go away, spirit. They know that's just nonsense, right? What they do is they say, okay, why are you doing this? Can't you see they're trying to be better? Why are you trying to punish them yourself? The spirit world will take care of that. They'll try and treat them with reason and love. Can we? In fact, in one of the books in the Chico Xavier Andre Louise series, is the spirit comes and he sees this innocent girl just being obsessed. And Andre Louise is there thinking, well, this guy's a high spirit. He can just say, you go away, right? Because a high spirit can command a lower spirit. There's no contest. Instead, what did this high spirit do to stop this girl from being obsessed? And this took a while. He said, what can I do for you? Can I help you in any way? And this guy was obsessing this woman. He goes, well, yeah, my son is in prison and he's innocent. He goes, well, let me go find out. And he went and he saw the judge, and he had the judge come up to a dream saying that this guy needs help. And the judge thought about it. And then eventually, to make a long story short, he reversed the decision and freed the boy. And the spirit who was obsessing this girl says, oh, he finally understood what love can do. And so that's how that works. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, here's from Kevin Campbell. Great suggestion. I indeed bought your trilogy of Spiritism books recently. Where can I find more info about Earth's current timeline? How you said a 50-year period just ended in 2019. What's next? Yeah, so the last of that book is How We Are Guided by Spirits. Talks about the far. I don't know if you've gotten to that book yet. That's the third book, book 3. That talks about the ultimate timeline of the Earth. Now, just recently, I have been watching more videos in Portuguese, and I don't speak Portuguese very well. I don't understand it that well, but luckily I have my wife who can ask questions, and I get that, so I owe all that to her. And Geraldo Lemos Neto, and he used to be like an assistant with Chico Xavier. So, since you read the book, so you know that we are Planet of Atonement, beginning the phase of a planet of regeneration. We're right in the preparatory phase. What Chico's told, and by the way, Chico, pretty darn good prophet, right? Because years, like, what is it, 70s or 80s, Chico told a group of Brazilians, he goes, yeah, one day Brazil will be self-sufficient in oil. And, of course, before that, Brazil had been looking for oil all over the place, never found it. And they all laughed at him. Of course. And he says, they're going to have to go down like a kilometer, 5,000 meters or whatever. I forgot how far off they have to drill. And they just laughed at him. Of course, then, the long story short, they found oil offshore, and it was pretty deep. So, So Chico told Geraldo that by the year 2057, we'll have more good spirits. And I shouldn't say good spirits. I'd say it's more educated, moral spirits than ignorant spirits. And in the book Genesis, I believe, it says that when the earth gets to be over 50%, then it will really start to be a planet of regeneration, because the minority will start to follow the majority. Now, Chico said 20, 30 years ago that about a third of people, about 30%, 3 out of 10, exactly what he said, less than a third, go to heaven. So that means we've got to increase that pretty rapidly, right? I always wondered what the percentage was around the time of Jesus. Was it 1 out of 10? I mean, how long did it take to get on that upper trajectory? So I believe this shows that something dramatic will happen to increase spirituality and awareness of the spirit realm for the whole earth sometime in the near future. Secondly, there has been, if you read the planetary transition, there are a lot of spirits who are coming here. Socrates, Buddha are going to be incarnated again. Jonas de Angelis are going to be incarnated again. A lot of wonderful people are going to be incarnated again. There are a lot of wonderful people who are on superior planets who are being incarnated. Chico Xavier's spirit mentor, Emmanuel, was born in the year 2000. He's going to make a big difference in Brazil. Who knows who's coming to Earth? Who's coming to other countries, I should say, not to Earth. So he says the year 2057, you'll really start seeing the effects snowball, and that the Earth will be a planet of regeneration, meaning you're going to have the lower spirits in the lower zone and the dark abyss, which is we call a purgatory. There's no eternal hell. They will be exiled to other planets because we won't have the kind of the ill-intentioned spirits around us giving us bad ideas. That will make a big difference for all of society. You won't have wars against countries, less jealousy, less hate, et cetera, et cetera. More just society. Not perfect, but it will be wonderful. Now, it won't happen all at once, right? After the year 2057, this will take a while. But he said that will last 7,000 years, and then we'll go to the next level after that. But yeah, so I think most of that, though, is really of what will happen in the future is in book 3. Oh, and then for people who don't know, the period ended, a 50-year period just ended in 2019. What Chico said is that in the year 1969, when men went to the moon, there was a meeting of the Council of Greater Planets, right? And this is Jesus Christ is one of the members. And they said, well, here we are again, because the Earth had already, what I've said, I know of 2 times, and Emmanuel said more times than that, but Lemuria, Atlantis were civilizations that were advanced, and they were technologically advanced, but not spiritually advanced. Therefore, they were destroyed. Kind of like, where the Rome is a mini version of that, right? Where Rome was destroyed. And hey, back to the farm for you guys. Too many slaves, too much quest for gold, all that stuff. So then Jesus said, look, let's give them a 50-year period from July in 1969. And if they don't have nuclear war, we'll really start the next phase. And in 2019, July 2019, we met the 50-year period. So what will happen is there'll be some remarkable things happen. And one of the things that Chico said is that aliens will come and they will give us more technology, advanced technology, and a lot of help. So I hope that helps answer that question. Here's the next question, Gabriele. What happens to a person's spirit if people sacrifice that person's spirit to a demon? Does the demon get that person's spirit, or does that person go to heaven and the ritual sacrifice didn't work? Okay, so let's talk about that. It's a good question. Again. So if someone sacrifices a person, well, first let's call demons. What is a demon? A demon is just an ignorant human who's down in the lower zone or the dark abyss. Demons and angels are us and different levels of spirituality. Jesus grew up like we did, being an ignorant, backward spirit, uneducated like us right now. We're not that well educated, no matter what we think. This is probably billions of years ago. It had to be, because the Earth, he was part of the members who formed the Earth, and that was, I just forgot how many billions of years ago that was. Was it 3 or 7, 6? So a demon is just a spirit who is not a nice person and who wants to dominate. So yes, one spirit can dominate another. You can have the force of your will. So if there is a person's spirit, it's not sacrifice per se. You can't die, right? You're immortal. But that more forceful lower spirit can dominate that spirit. That will not happen when that spirit who's been dominated, when that spirit sees that, oh, this is not good, and I don't like the life I'm living, because usually the people who are dominated are ones that are dominated because they weren't that nice to begin with too, and they're being taught a lesson by the spirit world. Once that person looks up and looks at the light and thinks about Jesus and wants to do good, they will be helped to get out of that domination. And in fact, that dominator may decide, I'm tired of this, you can go. And I've read about that too. So then the next one is, does the demon get that person's spirit? Does that person go to heaven and the ritual sacrifice didn't work? That person, depending on their level, if they're killed, so if when you say sacrifice, if you meant killed at that time, if that person was not a person who would elevate to heaven because of their innate kindness and their spirituality, they will go down to a lower zone and probably be dominated by other spirits. And they may stay there as long until they change their attitude and their character and their personality. If that person was just a completely innocent person that was kidnapped and they were a nice person and then they were sacrificed for some reason, probably because they did a murder back in their previous life, but now they're a nice person and they deserve to go to heaven, they will absolutely go to heaven. But it depends on the person who's being killed, unfortunately. I hope that answers that question. Can the spiritual mind and bodies be split into pieces or two, like a woman and a man's body? And the answer is no. You cannot. The opposite can happen. I've read, and this is very just single sentences. They give little hints. And where you have two spirits that will meld into one spirit, and they were like a man and a woman. They'll be a twin spirits kind of thing. But no, you cannot split a person into pieces into two. Now, a high spirit like Christ can be in two places, multiple places at once, because they have that power, but they're not split. He just has that ability to cast himself all over the place. Okay. Timothy Flynn. Hello again, brothers and sisters. Hey, I have a question. Have you ever heard of the work of Jonas Greber and his translation of the New Testament? No, I have not. So if anyone else has, let me know. I do not know that translation. Well, sorry about that. See, a lot of things I don't know. Okay, let me get back to we have another question. I'll get back to this unless someone has another question. And if you want to expand about what Jonas Greber, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, so I apologize. Please go ahead and expand. Might be something interesting. Oh, wait, got another one. Kevin Campbell. I'm a musician, and I've always considered myself lucky to experience moments of direct inspiration, awake and sleep. Can you describe how music vibrations are used in higher planes? Absolutely. So music, what the spirit world tells us, and in fact, let me step back for a bit. And I talk about, and I believe in my book too, you might have read this yet, but G. Allen's mother goes into one of the lower levels of heaven, and they go to a college where they experiment with music and the vibrations and so forth. And what she said to him is that music is inspired to musicians from the higher planes. And it's also influenced from the lower planes too. And you can guess what music is influenced by what. But what they do is they'll take the tonality or whatever, how the harmony works. And of course, the spirits say that the music is superior, and music makes you real. I mean, here music makes you feel things, but music really will just permeate your whole body, and it will actually make you feel better and just calm you down and feel healthy. The music is used a lot, and in fact, music is used, let's say, in fountains. And then music will come on and say, hey, there's a meeting, and everybody will know by the music a meeting's going to take place at a certain location, and music will actually kind of embedded in it, send messages to people. And so what they say is all this music is put through different layers of heaven, and when they think of something they want to inspire, they will find ways to inspire the musician that would uh, help bring forth this idea the best. So if you've had direct inspiration, awake and sleep, you are one of the people selected that are inspired by the spirit world to bring this type of music forth. And so the music vibration is used, vibration is everything, right? I mean, vibration and harmony, it's how everything is universal fluid. So uh, music is used a lot. And in fact, you'll have concerts given in the book Memoirs of Suicide, a great book by Yvonne Pereira. Uh, Camilo Branco was a very famous novelist, writer in Portugal at the end of the century. Saw a concert was given by who was that now? It's under my mind. It wasn't Mozart. Mozart will give it. It was the Polish, um, not Tchaikovsky. Chopin. Chopin. Sorry for that. Took me a while. And Chopin said, yeah, he kind of regretted his life. He was a little bit too depressed. He should have done more. But he gave a wonderful concert, and in he described the concert Chopin gave to the group, and it wasn't just music. It was visual images. It was it was like a whole thing, right? It put you in this different plane of existence kind of thing. So you saw visually and you felt harmony and you felt love and belonging. So it's a music, and someone like Mozart, who shows you how much music is and talent, as this case, is applauded in the spirit realm. Mozart is now in the planet Jupiter, which is in a higher planetary stage than Earth. So, um, it's very important. Okay. Well, here's Timothy Flynn. He said he did translation under the guidance of spirit guides, and I've read some of it, and it is in agreement a lot with the tenets of Spiritism. Interesting. I have to look that up. I have that here, Jonas Greber. Because the other thing is, if you want to read about um, interpretations of the New Testament, is the Gospel according to Spiritism, which let me show on the stream right here. It's this book right there. The Gospel according to Spiritism is the first book, and it tells a lot. And the other thing is, I have interpretations of the New Testament on my YouTube channel, in which I'll take a couple verses and interpret them according to Spiritism, and it's very interesting. And the more you understand and read Spiritism and study Spiritism, and then you read the New Testament, it's like Jesus said a lot of things more in the open than we know, right? He spoke in parables, and a lot of the parables, like when I first read the New Testament back when I was younger, I was like, I don't understand this. The first will be the last, the last shall be the first. What does that mean? And then, something like, let the dead bury the dead. Well, yes, spirits will take care of other spirits. You don't need to be there. In fact, it's better sometimes if you're not, because you're interfering with the process. And so a lot of things that are just fascinating because Spiritism tells us that that the spirits, and remember Jesus, and then his spirit, his ministers, one of his ministers like Socrates, and then higher spirits like Socrates, Buddha, Lao Tzu, and other spirits, right? And a lot of the yogis and they were all sent for the reasons of telling us how we should behave, how we should ascend into heaven. And the fact that they will communicate to us in the level of technology and culture so we can understand. And that's why, like, if you read the Old Testament, it's very directive. You shall do this. And You shall go into this town, kill everybody, and if you don't kill everybody, you're going to be punished. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? But they were at they were at that point where, yeah, you better listen to what you're told. And then it was more like, okay, loving and consoling, as you know, as Jesus came to earth, kind of say, here's more information for you, right? This is how you should behave. And then in Allan Kardec, it was very cooperative, right? This is like, this is for you to study, this is for you to understand. And therefore it's and the other thing is, for people who believe like the Old and New Testament are the Word of God and everything in it is exactly true and it can't change. And spirits tell us that you cannot contain the word of Jesus or of God, and the spirits will keep telling us new things as we go on. They tell new things to Chico Xavier, Devaldo Franco, and others. And even these Christian prophets you'll see on different channels and YouTube and so forth, all wonderful people. I love them. They will say, oh, you know, I heard, this is what I've heard. This is usually they try and interpret it through the being told things. So the spirit world is still talking to them and trying to bring us information of how to be a better person. So think about that. Okay, let me do this. Yes, I own the Gospel According to Spiritism. It's my go-to for sure, and has helped my Bible understanding a lot. Yeah, it helped mine too. It's a wonderful book, and very well written, and a lot of spirits talk to Allan Kardec, and there's no reason that the spirits couldn't have talked to Gruber too, and it's Johannes Gruber. So yeah, I'll look him up and see what something I might have to go through later. I always get great suggestions from people. It's like the book I'm going through on Tuesdays. I go through these books that aren't Spiritus per se, by Spiritus mediums, and I look at the intersections and the very similarities between Spiritism and what they're saying, and it all proves the fact is that we have the same type of people talking to us, trying to give us information through different methods, right? There's not just one method, right? All sorts of people are trying to help us become a better planet, and all religions are respected, and anyone that can make you a better person, God bless them. That's great. That's how it should be. And so I like to read this thing, like Through the Mist is just by this spirit who was killed at the end of the 19th century, and he goes to heaven and he goes, well, this isn't what I expected. This is completely different. I want to go back and tell everybody. And the guy, well, wait, it really doesn't work. They won't believe you. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions. It's going to take us time, right? But his writing's really great. He was a great person. He went and he worked in the slums of London, and it's just the whole, what I'm going through is chapter by chapter is what he finds in the spirit world, what he discovers. It's just fascinating. Okay. Okay. Let me hide this. Let me get some water. Okay. Let me go to question 6, unless there's more. This is from someone who wrote in. I find as I learn more about Spiritism, I'm less anxious about life and the ups and downs. Excellent. That's how it should be, because you're just here, right? Not that long. However, just as you said, the outcome of certain situations feel as a physical failure. How do we know if we are on the right path, or if we have made the right decisions toward progress? I mean, no one is exempt from hardship at one point or another. And, you know, it's difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because I question myself. I go, you know, I feel like I've seen the signs and signals. I feel like I've been inspired, but am I fooling myself? Because we all know is humans have a great capacity to fool themselves and think it's the right thing to do. But I always go back to the basic tenet is you can't go wrong by following your conscience. And if you are on the right path and you're feeling better about yourself and better about your life, then you've done the right thing, even though it feels like a physical failure, right? Even though you didn't get that job because you were turned down. And you never know. A lot of times you don't get that job because you're turned down because you are destined for a certain job and it's going to take longer than you want, right? As we humans on Earth, just like kids, are we there yet? You want it now. When I lost my job in the 2007, 2008 Great Recession, and that's when I had my aha moment for Spiritism. The major one is where I was told by my wife, who remembered what she was said, that, oh, don't worry about it, and this is like a year before the bank went broke. Oh, don't worry, you're gonna work for a bank. Your bank will go broke, but you'll be hired by the same bank but with a different name. Of course, and I worked for Washington Mutual, and of course, I thought, oh, she didn't know what she's talking about. And I even made the great decision of buying more stock because I thought, oh, we'll come out of this. Everyone said that the leadership says we're going to be fine. Of course, I lost everything. And then I went to look for all sorts of jobs, and I always came in second. He says, why are you looking for jobs? You're going to be hired by the same bank. And of course, to make a long story short, I was hired by the same bank, but with a different name, meaning Chase, JP Morgan Chase, bought our bank. I was laid off, and then they brought me back. So it felt like a physical failure, right? Because, you're trying to feed your family and you're trying to get together. But does your conscience feel better? Do you feel secure? Do you feel positive? If you feel positive and secure, then you know you are on the right track. And I think that's the biggest signal that you can do. Now, the other thing is, if for some reason you're on the wrong track, you should have signs and signals and dreams that telling you, I wouldn't do that, right? In fact, Camilo Branco, in the Memoirs of a Suicide, was told over and over again, don't leave where you live. Go find because he had loved this woman, and then she turned him down, and then he wanted to go be a Jesuit and get revenge on the world, right? And he had dream after dream saying, no, stay on the land where you are, marry a nice woman, and prove yourself spiritually. Of course, he ignored all of that and went on to be a Jesuit, tortured people, and went down a hole. So if you're having dreams saying this, don't do this, please listen to them, because that's important. Okay, another question. This is in Grabielli. What if you die and in the spirit realm you still want to get pleasured in ways, have fun, play, fight, and get high, and not spend time evolving? Is it wrong to want this and be like this? Where will I go? And there are always, and you read about this in Spiritism. So, and I've had people say, well, I want to eat. I love eating, to name one. Well, in the first levels of heaven, they'll still have some sort of food, right? But they recommend that you just get used to having energized water, sunlight, because you don't need that much food. The other thing I will say is that these things are important to us on Earth, right? Because that's our recreation. My answer to this is all those things that you're talking about, play, fight, get high, right? Those will be pushed down in your priority list if you really are intellectually curious of what's going on in heaven. And you see this it's like a kid. You see this new toy. Oh, your old toy, forget about that. That was last week. Now you want these other things. It's much more exciting than doing these things that you're used to on Earth. Now, if that doesn't happen to you, you have the ability to say, oh, okay, this level is not for me. I want to go down levels. And people have made these decisions and going down the levels into cities and colonies, and it'll allow places in the lower zone where they'll have food and they'll do all the things that you're talking about. They won't. And then if you go way down into the dark abyss, and you want to drink and all that, it won't be as satisfying as you think it will. It will. In fact, actually, I read one book where it says actually they drank alcohol and it burned their throat. Um, it it won't work as well as you think. So I believe what will happen is if that is really important in someone's information, to that you will go down and on your own free will, you'll explore these cities, you'll experience that, and at some time you'll say, "Nah, okay, I'm I'm done with that. I want to go up again," and you'll rise up again, and you'll have more incarnations, and you'll pass all that. But it's a long fight. I totally understand. Yes, I mean we enjoy our pleasure in many different ways here on Earth, and um, people ask about that. But I sincerely believe you'll find much greater pleasures. Plus, even in NDEs, they talk about that when someone has a near-death experience, NDE, near-death experience, a higher spirit will tell us someone like, "Oh, don't hug me, you'll feel too good," because once you're in heaven, you'll feel this constant comfort, and this kind of buzz of love and satisfaction. That should be, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I don't know for sure, should be greater than any type of drug or high you can get on Earth. And that's again why you come to Earth in order to really change your character and your personality, because it's hard to make changes there to some of these fundamental things. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but when you just feel satisfied, you're with good friends, and you feel calm and cool, and you just feel good all the time. You don't have that stimuli to make you have fundamental changes. So um, that I hope that helps. So anywhere you'll go to the level that you feel comfortable in. It doesn't stop you from going back up. There's no permanency. There's no forever here. All the spirit world Jesus Christ wants is for you to learn and to improve at the pace you wish to. You don't have to incarnate if you're in one of the levels of heaven. You can sit there for a long, long time. I know there's been spirits in the lower zone for 10,000 years. It's a long time. So it's they want you to learn at the pace you wish. Okay, Kevin Campbell. Do you recommend reading the Spiritus review more or less front to back? And so I've read them front to back, and this is starting from, I can't remember. The one I'm on now was 1858. It goes to 1860 something until Kardec died. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff in there that, like notes of the meetings of who they're going to publish and things like that that aren't that interesting. And that's why on Sundays I go through that and I pick out, and but then you find the gems, right? And so I would say, kind of skim and say, oh, is this revelatory? Is this going to concern me? Is this important? And if it's not, skim it, pass it by. It's probably not worth your time. It's a lot of this is very topical to that time period. But then there's other things where they have mediums meetings and they talk about different things, and they'll talk to Diogenes, right, as he talked to Alexander. This fascinating. Talk about Mozart on Jupiter. That is extremely fascinating. So when you say read front to back, I would say read, skim. You'll know pretty quickly if it's interesting or not. That's what I did. It is fascinating, though. They really get you to the headwaters of Spiritism. Gabriele, what is the Spiritist view of why there are different races of people created by God? So these are all, so evolution, so the evolution of the planet was guided. It's guided evolution, right? God didn't just make Adam and Eve and different races. They created these different humans, and they were then evolved towards what fitted their environment best. And the lighter skin with less light, and vice versa, etc. Of course, now as people advanced, they could be okay with that, right? It didn't make a difference. So it was just a way of adapting different humans to different environments. And it's probably ways of also expanding your horizons of different experiences in different bodies, right? I always say, like, being incarnated is like going on a ride in Disney World or Disneyland. Let's say Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and you have a car, and it could be different colors, pink, blue, or whatever, or yellow. And you get on that ride, and you're in this pink car going around, and interesting ride. And then you get off, and that's your body, right? You just left your body behind. So it's just a way to give you more experiences and broader. So you don't come as the same race all the time. You come as different races. And so, so like in the Roman times, for instance, and different classes of people, right? A Roman general who was cruel and enslaved everyone could come back as a slave in the Roman Empire, right? Or a Russian noble who was mean to his serfs, and they were basically slaves to their landowners till the late 19th century. Come back as a serf. I know that one Roman general came back as a slave on the slave plantation back in the 1800s because he had tortured and done cruel things to people. And then when he was a slave, he had his tongue burned out. Oh, horrible, right? But the person who did that to him, the owner of that plantation, when he died, he went to this horrible place, and he had all his his past is past people he did bad things to. They were torturing him and being mean to him. And then this guy who had his tongue burned out came in and said, "Okay, you've been here long enough. Let me take you to a better place." What a wonderful person. So you're everything, and you're the chief, you're the king at one time, right? That's why I always tell people when you're when you're thinking of past lives, people say, "Well, I was a queen of something, or I was a king, or I was the duke of something, or I was a general." It's like, when you're the higher level you are, the more damage you can do. And I know this one person, it was one lady was the Queen of Spain, and she had to go through life after life paying back everything she did, because she would sign documents saying, "Yeah, send that guy to the Spanish Inquisition." And she knew what the Spanish Inquisition was. It was a way to be tortured. Those were pretty cruel people. They wanted to torture you, and they wanted to take all the money from you they could. And she had to end up being pretty well bedridden for quite a few lives. And poor lady. I mean, God bless her. So, so the races are, and I think within the races, there's different levels of native intelligence we have, right? So think about that. Think of, like, I could never be a scientist, right? I could never be as smart as some of these physicists. No way. And so why is that, right? Why is this inequality? Well, now remember, in the spirit world, we're all equal. So even if you're considered pretty stupid in the spirit world, I mean, in on Earth, I don't mean spirit world, you're just you have the same capacity to be intelligent, to learn things and do things as anyone else in the spirit world. You have the equal capacity. Whereas on Earth, we know that's not true, right? I can't be a PhD physicist. That's not going to happen to me. I'm not that smart. But in the spirit world, if you want to dedicate yourself to that goal, you can. So therefore, the spirit world is creating all these different things. So you get the same question can be, why different races? Why different classes? Why different, all of these things. It's to create this whole expanse of different experiences for people to go through. And you have to look at yourself. That why are you put in the position you are? The wealth of your parents, the lack, or the good parents, or the parents that kind of ignore you. There's always a reason. I knew this one medium whose parents just totally ignored him. And he was like, okay, raise yourself, kid. Well, he's a medium, and he found out in his past life he was a famous ballerina. And he had 2 kids as a woman. And he just focused on being a famous ballerina and just let them away. In fact, those 2 kids then had relationships, and then they came back as man and wife in their next life, and he was their kid who was then ignored. It all comes around. Karma's real. I hope that answered that question. It's a fascinating subject. Okay, Kevin Campbell. Are you aware of other great English-speaking sources for Spiritism to read? It seems like we are behind enemy lines with Brazil being so active. Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot on my series of 3 books, Heaven and Below, Spirits and Spirit Universe, and How We Are Guided by Spirits, I base on the works by the Reverend G. Val Owen. And he's one of the best to read. And you have to kind of search for him. I found him because he was in a book in Portuguese that still has not been translated in English. My wife and I were sitting on our little comfy chairs, right, or loungers, and she said, "Brian, look at this." And I said, yeah. No, look at this. And I always know that she insists that she's inspired some way. And it was a list of spirits who were meeting about Spiritism. And I read through the list, and it was like Spanish names, Portuguese names, right? And then this one guy, Reverend G. Val Owen. Well, that doesn't fit. So I looked him up, and then I found all of his books and so on and so forth. Beyond the Veil is one to read. In fact, I cover a lot of that, but you might want to read that yourself. Beyond the Veil. There's some other books. But Paul and Albert, short book, like 60 pages, but it's about how Paul went down into the lower zones. I mean, it's a great book. But yeah, but for other people besides G. Val Owen, I haven't really seen them. It's tough. There's some Spanish ones out there. My wife read them, and then we talk about them. There is Father. Oh, I can't remember. I'll look that up. I'll try and find that one. There's some books in English. Look for Spiritism PDF. Like I don't know if it's Father Crispin or that was translated from Spanish, I believe. So you have to search them out. It's tough, and any time anything gets translated into English from the Portuguese writers, I try and snap it up and read it as soon as possible. Okay, what has happened spiritually to a sociopath with little conscience and a psychopath with no conscience to make them like that? Well, they're primitive, ignorant spirits. And so everyone has a conscience. And as we grow and go through different lives, we learn to listen to our conscience. They haven't learned to listen to their conscience. They have a conscience, and it may like intrude on them, but they rationalize away and say, no, I'm going to do what brings me pleasure. What will happen to them is they will eventually learn through hard knocks, hard lives. They will, and we've all started like that. So when you see someone who's like a complete, criminal with no conscience, like what you think is no conscience, we were like that at some stage in our lives, and we had to grow and become better, right? Because look, if you're just starting out as this primitive human and having no conscience and just saying, "Hey, I got to kill this guy so I can eat," that works. It works. It works. Stays with you. But as we become civilized, we have to work that out. We have to replace the primitive emotions with the civilized emotions. So that's why they are psychopathic, or have no conscience. Sociopathic is they're still primitive spirits. They will get better. Not in that lifetime, most probably. It will take some lifetimes. Gabriele, what are your thoughts on these deliverance videos showing people cast out demons or spirits out of people with Bible verses and demons also speaking through them? Real or not? So it's probably real that spirits have obsessed them and taken care of their body and speaking through them. I've seen that happen, right? But what Spiritism says is these spirits just kind of laugh at you. Reading the Bible, trying to scare them, giving them, hexes and that type of stuff. Uh, the symbology of the cross could affect them because they'll see that and they'll go, I don't like that. It does have some sort of effect on them, but in the main, it's just a waste of time, and it's probably more that they leave because they get bored with that whole situation. So it's that's why in Spiritus they'll have psychiatric Spiritist hospitals where they'll have mediums meetings and they'll say, okay, why are you obsessing this person? So if you still had that exorcism and they all cast out and they'll read Bible verses and they'll turn their, they'll say bad things. In the Spiritist setting, they'd say, okay, they talk to these spirits. They go, why are you doing this to this person? Oh, he was horrible to me. He did this, this, and this. Yes, I know that person did a horrible thing in their past life. Can you forgive them, right? And they'll talk to them rationally as one human to another. What has happened spiritually? Someone to make them people described as pedophiles or people who do bestiality with animals. That could be a lot of things, and in fact, those are behaviors from past lives that they were done that to, and it's unfortunate. So, and in fact, there's a book by Chico Xavier, Francisco C. Xavier, called "Sex and Destiny," and they actually talk about people with these types of tendencies, and they have special programs for them to try and break them of that tendency. So what exactly happened and why they became that tendency, I'm not sure, but I do know, I do know that they will try and teach them and go to college in the spirit world and tell them why they shouldn't do this, and they'll track them. And actually, in the book, it was great because they actually had percentages of, okay, the people who came back, and I don't remember the percentages exactly. The people who came back, it was like 23. It was like in the 20%. So I probably have it on my blog. If you look up Sex and Destiny, it's like 23% got better, but then 14% stayed the same, 15% just did what they did before, and a small percent actually got worse. And so these people who do these types of things are actively worked on by the spirit realm to eradicate these habits. What exactly how that started, I don't know. I can make guesses, but I don't want to. It's just too much. Gabrielle, oh, thanks, friends. Oh, my pleasure. Keep coming Mondays. You're asking. Everyone here is asking great questions. Kevin Campbell, last question. What is a standard Spiritist view on not wanting to have children in service of other good actions and the view on homosexuality? So on the view of homosexuality is, if this is why one of the reasons I believe the Spirits book was burned by the Catholic Church is in the Spirits book. If you look at it, they go, what is marriage? And they say marriage is between two spirits. And another question is what does the spirit come back as a man or woman? And they say the spirit can come back as either one. So the Spirits book is implying, they didn't say it outright, they said it indirectly, and this is in the 1850s, right? Is marriage can be between two spirits, and the spirit can come back as a man or a woman. And so, and then on the view of homosexuality, that's just kind of a natural sexuality. And I believe a lot of that is, and this is what's kind of is tough for especially people who are transgender, is If you were, let's take the example. If you were a woman in your last life and you treated men like dirt, just used them and abused them, most probably you'll come back as a man in your next life to show you, because right, you have to atone for your wrongs, right? To show you what the other side feels like. Of course, your instinct is, I don't want this body. This is garbage, right? And my advice to that is, you're going to have to, this is a trial you're going to have to go through. And if you try to change it now, your next life might be the same. And it's tough. Well, God bless them all. But it's tough. And the same thing with a man. Men have come back as women who were just horrible to women, just, evil, dominating, physically violent. Well, guess what? They may come back as a woman and be abused themselves, unfortunately, which is really sad. I hate to see it. But they'll learn. They're atoning for their past wrongs. Like, this isn't so great. So I hope that answers that part of the question. Now, wanting to have children in service of not wanting to have children. Yes, I mean, so one of the things the spirit realm, I'll tell you right from, is it's important for many people to have children, right? Because you're developing other spirits who come to earth and trying to make them better people. But of course, that is your choice here on earth. And then you can do other good actions. I mean, look, Chico Xavier didn't have any children. He adopted one. Maria Teresa, I'm sure she's in heaven. She didn't have children, right? And so there's, of course, there's lower, there's other things, but those are two examples that you don't have to have children as long as you're a good person. You try to help other people, help the children around you, your family or other children. You can do that. And some people aren't allowed to have children. This one man who robbed from committed fraud from his bank because he had throat cancer and he was trying to pay for that. And then he put his whole family into deep poverty. And when he was, making out his life plan for his next life, he told his friends, well, you know what? I'm not allowed to have children because I blew that chance. I was not I'm not in this life, next life I'm not allowed to have children. So I'm going to be working with children in an orphanage. And that's how I'm going to atone for what I've done wrong in the past. I hope that helps. Then another one is Crystal Asuncion. Oh, I just found this channel. Really great information. Excellent. I'm glad you found it. And remember, I have a blog. My blog is NW Spiritism. Let me just go right here so you can find out more information. And then on that you can download my book, Spiritism 101, in PDF for free. It's also in Kindle, of course, in paperback. So there's a lot of resources for people who want to explore Spiritism more. And of course, then is my other book is I have like 15 books, and you can go through them and decide what helps. And then there's a lot of books on PDFs on Spiritism. But the Spirit Realm, where I've tried to take everything I've read and break it down into what it means. And you'll find my approach is different. I don't know if it's different. I probably less effective, but my approach to Spiritism and how I write about it and I teach it, and I try to do different things with it, but I try to tell people what are the processes and procedures and rules in the environment of the spirit realm. Other people are more focused on really bringing yourself and ascending yourself up with love and understanding and charity and fraternity, which is, that's great. That's really, I should be more like that. I try to do that in my book, How to Live Inner Peace with Spiritism. But I'm kind of my approach, because it's probably because I'm analytical, and I have a degree in computer science, undergraduate degree, and I just want to understand the rules and the procedures and process, what it all means, and that's kind of my approach. So different education, different ways for people to educate as people want. Then Kevin Campbell said, or non-binary LGBTQ. Yes, I mean, so I think, and that was from the previous question. And I said, yeah, so people are affected by their previous lives. You have instincts, and this is again, this is why I say, when you see these people have instincts that they don't want to be who they are, and there's a good reason why they don't want to be who they are, because they were somebody else in a previous life, and their instinct tells them. But look at that fact that they, I don't feel good in this body, or I don't feel good at this, right? I'm not attracted to that. Look at that fact. And then when people ask questions like, well, how do I learn? And how do I understand, like, if I've gotten better, how will I be better in my next life? Because you'll have the instinct. You'll have the instinct of, no, I shouldn't torture that person. I shouldn't rob, right? And I believe like a lot of people who, like me, I never had any want to be, to really experiment with drugs. I've tried some things, but it was nothing. Never liked alcohol that much, very little. And I believe that was because I probably was addicted or did something in my previous life to say, no, I'm not even interested in that. So, and I think these positive influences, they will follow you by your instinct in future lives. So if you train yourself now to be a better person, right? Don't no malicious gossip, et cetera, this will carry on into your next life, and it will be of great benefit to you. So you can see it. You can see it happening in positive and negative situations. Very interesting. Okay. I just want to say thanks for all the questions. There were great questions by everybody. And next Monday, please join me. Remember, I live stream Sunday on talking about the Spiritus review. I didn't do it the last 2 Sundays. I had things to do. And on Tuesdays, I'm talking about Through the Mist. And of course, check out my, please subscribe, hit the bell. Check out my books on my blog site. And if you have any questions, please contact me, and through the About Me on my blog, nwspiritism.com. And I have all these links down below too on the YouTube live video. Okay.